Rate and review Marijuana Today daily on iTunes today. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Monday, January 2nd, 2018, and you're tuned in to episode 414 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. Our top story of the day is the government shutdown so brilliantly engineered by the very stable genius and President Donald Trump and the Republican Party, who control both the U.S. House of Representatives and the Senate. I'll leave the hugely deep backstory of Trump's shutdown to other political prognosticators, with a focus today on how the shutdown could affect the legal marijuana industry. Leafly has a good piece up looking at some of those specifics, with the main worry being a Department of Justice suddenly freed from legislative restrictions on going after state legal medical marijuana. The DOJ is exempt from the shutdown and could conceivably make moves during it against medical cannabis, though it's become very clear that the political fallout of that could be even too much for Attorney General Jeff Sessions to bear. Click over to Leafly's piece for the full read on this one. Today is the deadline for Vermont Governor Phil Scott to sign into law his state's new medical marijuana legalization bill, and as of this morning, no word has been released about any such signing. I reported on this one last week, with the governor saying he would sign the bill into law in private so as to not antagonize prohibitionary-leaning folks. If the governor were to just not sign the bill, it would still go into law, though there's no indication that that's what's happening. We'll keep an eye on this one for sure, though, as Vermont is poised to become the very first state in the U.S. to legalize adult use via the legislative process. This is an important milestone because there just aren't that many states left that allow for citizen ballot initiatives. Our friend Tom Angel over at Marijuana Moments picked up our final top story of the day with a release on Friday of a new poll showing that Americans, by a wide margin, think that tobacco, alcohol, and sugar are more dangerous to a person's health than marijuana. The new poll was conducted by NBC News and the Wall Street Journal and asked people which of four substances they thought most dangerous: tobacco, alcohol, sugar, or marijuana. 41% chose tobacco, 24% alcohol, 21% sugar, and just 9% marijuana. Numbers that seem to line up pretty well with how damaging each of the four actually are. Those are top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out on headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, MJ Today Media, publishers of this podcast, our weekly show, Marijuana Today, and our popular email newsletter, the MJ Today Media Newsfeed. There's a lot of reasons why your legal cannabis company should become a sponsor of MJ Today Media, but today I'm just going to focus on the top two reasons. First off, podcast advertising is super effective. Our audience tunes in every day and every week and gives us large parts of their day in listening to our shows. Podcast listeners, as a general class, take more action on and retain marketing messages better than consumers of traditional print media or even video. When it comes to deploying your marketing dollars, you want to squeeze every last one to reach the largest target audience in the most impactful way. That's the marketing sweet spot reached by podcast advertising. The second reason you want to become a sponsor of MJ Today Media is that our traffic is blowing up. We've seen this before in the past as new listeners flood in after states adopt new progressive cannabis laws. Well, true to its nature, the entrance of California has boosted our already strong traffic to stratospheric approaching levels. We're up 30% over just last month with no signs of things slowing down. If you sign up today as a sponsor of MJ Today Media, you'll be able to lock in last year's pricing throughout the upcoming next year, which promises to be a barn door busting time for our company and our shows. To make the smartest decision of your marketing year, just email advertising@mjtodaydaily.com. That's advertising@mjtodaydaily.com. All right, time for the blitz. The Canadian province of Ontario is considering allowing businesses to offer space for customers to consume marijuana in. Late last week, Ontario officials issued a request for feedback from the public on a number of proposed measures around this summer's adult use cannabis legalization, with one being the commercialization of public social use spaces. If you're a resident of Ontario and would like to share your feedback, find your way over to the Provincial Regulatory Registry website, which is taking submissions until March 5th. Alaskan Governor Bill Walker just appointed a new member to his state's marijuana control board after the rescinding of the Cole memo pushed board chair and police chief Peter Malarnick to resign. Governor Walker tapped fellow police chief Travis Welch to replace Malarnick, with Welch still needing to be confirmed by a legislative committee. Last week, we touched on a story about the Department of Veterans Affairs' decision to avoid studying the efficacy of medical marijuana for military veteran patients in need, with VA Secretary David Shulkin being questioned about his claims that his agency's hands were tied by superseding federal laws regarding marijuana's Schedule I status. Last week, news broke that Secretary Shulkin has clarified things a bit more to admit that the VA could be getting more involved with medical marijuana, but that it's, really hard. Secretary Shulkin actually told the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, quote, "We have to go through multiple agencies, and it's very challenging to work our way through that process," unquote. This is why the VA isn't supporting medical marijuana, because it's, quote unquote, very challenging for them to do paperwork. There's some kind of bitter comedy here. The state of Pennsylvania is moving along on its way to implementing a reasonably robust medical marijuana program, with the Philadelphia Inquirer reporting that 10 of the 12 licensed marijuana cultivators have been given the green light to start growing. There are now a number of certified labs and dispensaries, and more than 13,000 registered patients within the Keystone State. Jumping up to my corner of the country here in Maine, we have lawmakers voting on Friday to extend a moratorium on adult use sales that was set to run out February 1st all the way out to April 18th to give lawmakers time to work out a compromise bill. Regular listeners should be well familiar with the troubles Maine has had in implementing adult use sales, as our obstructionist Governor Paul LePage pulled all sorts of gubernatorial shenanigans leading up to his veto of a bill worked out by a legislative committee most of last year. This is another story we'll naturally be keeping an eye on. National Public Radio has an important piece up about the dearth of working knowledge within the medical community about how to actually use marijuana as a medicine. With medical cannabis being so widely adopted, it's pretty shocking just how much of an information void exists among doctors in how to best use it. Open up this one for the full read. And finally for today, we jump out west for a story reminding us how complex our industry remains, even as most of the country agrees that adult use cannabis should be legal, and more states than not have some kind of positive marijuana laws on its books. In California's Mendocino County, Old Kai, a licensed marijuana distribution company led by entrepreneur Lucas Seymour, has been caught up in a battle with local law enforcement over nearly 1,900 pounds of the company's cannabis flower and trim that was seized by police in a traffic stop just a few days before Christmas. This story is a deep one, so I'd also click over for the full dive in. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily and visit our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, MJ Today Media, and to all of our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with Marijuana Today.
One take, Shay. One take.